For USCFootball.com, Connor Morrissette and Chris Trevino. We're here on campus after USC's Wednesday practice of Notre Dame week. Chris, we heard from some defensive players and defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn today. We'll get into all of that, but first, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Obviously, I don't usually do Wednesdays these days. Riley, our intern, is under the weather, so I hope she feels better. I'm stepping up again. Big step up week. King Miller, now me. I gotta step up and help the team out.
You are stepping up in a big way, so thank you very much. Someone else who stepped up today, DJ Harvey, came out to practice first. First guy, scholarship, non-scholarship, just the first player out today. Do you put any stock into that being an important part of him trying to get back into the rotation? Do you see that as him showing more effort, or is that just the defensive backs got out of their meeting first and he was the first one out the door?
It could be a little bit of both. Obviously, clearly the defensive backs were let out because most of the cornerbacks and Trevino Reed were the first players and coaches out for today. But, there's always something about getting out there early, getting a little extra, just set up, get your mind right, get the mind. He hasn't obviously had the season that we thought he would have coming from San Jose State as a starter over there and, high PFF grades and all that. So he just needs one play to get that confidence going, and maybe it'll come soon, maybe it'll come later, but he just needs a confidence boost, and, maybe getting out to practice helps him, get his mind right.
And with some of the injuries that USC's had at corner, he's one or two away from playing a lot. And D'Anton Lynn said after practice that the cornerback rotation, we saw a lot of DeCarlos Nicholson and Marcellus Williams. That was what was right for the Michigan game, but going forward, that could change. So Harvey will certainly have a chance, I think, to work back into the rotation. We'll have to see.
Specifically said they're going with the hot hands.
Yes.
And Carlos and Marcellus playing the hot hand, I guess.
And I thought outside of that one touchdown, they played well. Yeah. Couple injury notes. So Jakeem Stewart, as usual, doesn't practice Tuesday. Practiced today, or at least came out in the full pads. And then a couple of reserve offensive linemen did not come out today. Or they did come out, but they didn't have the pads on. So USC continues to deal with some injury stuff. But outside of the running backs, Chris, relatively clean bill of health going into this Notre Dame game. No surprise injuries like Floyd Boucard we talked about yesterday. The running backs, everyone knows that situation. Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan won't be available. But you still have a lot of key guys for Notre Dame, which is great. Kamari Ramsey, Eric Gentry, Jaden Mayava, Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane. No update on Elijah Page, but as Lincoln Riley said yesterday, they might not even need him. That's not what he said. He's talked about how the line's been playing really well without him, and if he comes back, he'll need to earn his spot. What I'm trying to say, relatively clean bill of health heading into this big rivalry game.
No, absolutely, and obviously, yeah, this Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan of it all hangs over this team's head, but for the most part, you got to feel really good about the cards that you do have going into this game. Losing Floyd Boucard does sting a little bit. He's been one of their pass rush specialists, as we talked about, but, Carlin Jones has been stepping up, and Devin Tompkins talked about, he's seen him, take more responsibility with those reps that he's picking up in practice, and we'll see maybe someone else get more reps as well. Jakeem Stewart obviously will get more reps as a part of that, and he's been playing really well. And just with the whole Jakeem Stewart, kind of rested on Tuesday. That's kind of been the cycle for him as we see him, kind of step back a little bit on Tuesday. He's been nursing the foot injury, so I don't want to say it's this thing that he's been doing. I think they're just giving him some rest because of, he's important to this team, and you don't want to put too much on him. He's still been playing, really well despite, being hampered a little bit by the foot injury. But obviously he practiced today for Wednesday, but I don't want to make it seem like he's taking the day off. I think they're just being precautious with him because he is still battling that foot injury that's been giving him trouble since the start of the season.
Yeah, there's a reason that he's not practicing on Tuesday. It's not because he doesn't want to. It's because he's dealing with an injury. I've seen some of those comments and questions.
I just want to get ahead of that right now, just the dumb comments.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. So D'Anton Lynn spoke, as I said, and he talked about a few guys on Notre Dame's offense who they're paying attention to. He gushed about tight end Eli Raridan, who had a big game last week against NC State. He's following in that mold of the great Notre Dame tight ends. Not to give USC fans bad flashbacks, but the Trojans did have some trouble last year with Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end. I don't know if Raridan's quite there yet, but he's a really talented tight end. How will USC defend him, Chris? And are you concerned about that matchup at all?
Absolutely. Just the amount of times I've seen a tight end kill a USC defense, and everyone knows, that has been the specialty. Yep. And even in Lincoln Riley, or obviously Alex Grinch, got some tight ends drafted pretty highly thanks to that defense. So obviously D'Anton Lynn's defense different than Alex Grinch's defense, but still, tight ends. You wake up in cold sweats thinking about what a tight end could do to a USC defense. So obviously he's going to be a big challenge for them. As Danton Lynn said, this is the best tight end they have faced. 6'7". You get that meme? Nope. Okay, maybe someone will get that meme. But big tight end, Eric Gentry. You got the Eric Gentry, the tight end killer. Well, not necessarily a killer, but we haven't seen him really do that. But he can cover. We saw him play in the slot a lot against Michigan. He can cover it. He's physical. He's obviously his own size at 6'7", so maybe we'll see some of that matchup this weekend. But again, the rain might be a factor. Maybe they're not going to throw as much. But yeah, Reardon is someone they're going to have to key on in heavily. And just by the way, Dan Lynn was talking about him. He's been circled on that board.
Certainly another guy who's been circled, Jeremiah Love, the star running back who played last year against USC. I think he ended up getting hurt in that game, but then Jadarian Price, their backup, is still really good. So the running backs for Notre Dame, really talented, and USC will have to pay attention to those guys. And then Danton Lynn said redshirt freshman quarterback CJ Carr can make all the throws that you look for. So he's having a nice bounce back after I don't want to say a slow start, because he still put up some pretty solid stats those first couple games, but he's certainly improving week by week. And then the soft schedule the last 3 weeks has certainly played a part in that, Chris. And I want to get your opinion. So Notre Dame, the last 3 games, I think they've only allowed 7 points in the second half of games. They're making a lot of adjustments. The defense is clearly improving for them, but the level of competition is taking a hit. They haven't played great teams. I kind of feel like USC will be able to still move the ball, all things considered, but we'll see how the weather affects that.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been the toughest schedule for Notre Dame. They're still formidable.
Started off really tough. And then
now it's kind of, they've got some momentum, got some confidence, beating up on these other teams. Still a formidable place to play at South Bend, as we know, as we've been hitting on 2011. They haven't won since 2011, so it's going to be tough. The weather, all things, working against USC. But yeah, I still feel pretty good about USC's offense being able to move the ball, mainly because the USC's offensive line has been playing so well. And, Jane's been taking care of the ball. Been a couple times, obviously, last week. Don't want to have that. And obviously, kind of a redemption game for Jaden Maeva after having those 2 terrible pick sixes in the game last season. So a little bit of redemption for him. I think he's going to come out and play well. And that offensive line's been rolling. Elijah Page, obviously you'd like to have him back if he's playing at a high level. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to run through the USC offensive line. I think they're playing outstanding right now. So that's why I feel confident about USC's offense being able to move the ball in South Bend.
So excited for Saturday. A few other things from today, though, Chris. So DeCarlos Nicholson, he was in on that 69-yard touchdown by Andrew Marsh for Michigan. He didn't fall back into coverage enough. He said he got a little too nosy at the line of scrimmage. That was the coaching point. And then the other coaching point was just do your job. Can't allow plays like that when you're up multiple scores at the end of a game. So we'll see if that gets tightened up against Notre Dame. It was reassuring, though, that there was only the one explosive play against Michigan, I thought, because the previous week there were more against Illinois than 2 weeks before. I took that as a step in the right direction.
Are we seeing some growth?
Yes.
Are we seeing some growth? That's obviously some development. We saw Marcellus Williams been pretty good lately, and then that was probably his best game last year, or this past season, or this season against Michigan. Obviously, Underwood kind of up and down as a passer right now, so this will be a harder challenge with CJ Carr, still a first-year starting quarterback, So seeing those two guys grow, I mean, I still think they're going to have their struggles still, but it seems like they're stabilizing a little bit, and that's obviously what you want to see with a really good coach we see in Danton Lynn, and coaching up that secondary and being that strength. Also helps that Kamar Ramsey is back, kept that communication. You saw the communication on the field with Michigan, it looked outstanding, so you hope it carries over into South Bend and what's going to be a hostile environment.
DeCarlos Nicholson also talked about how USC, he said, we need this game. They have this one circled. They're taking this one personally. All the things you want to hear before a rivalry game. But with Nicholson, he was a transfer last year, coming in from Mississippi State, got that first taste of the rivalry a year ago. And you have to think that a second year in it, now just being a USC Trojan for another year, it's kind of baked in a little bit more. So it seems like he's taken this week personally, which is great to see. I'm sure Danton Lynn is in that same mold, and a lot of the guys who arrived on campus last year who are back have to be thinking the same thing. So really excited to see that.
And I just want to add, just like an observation, we did see DeCarlos Nicholson come out with some boxing gloves in his helmet. I'm assuming, because we've seen this before, usually in training camp, but put the boxing gloves on the defensive backs and you make them run drills with wide receivers so they can't grab can't grab it. It stops you from grabbing and kind of working on that PI. Obviously, they're going to an away situation, maybe some home cooking. Maybe don't give them an excuse. Don't give them a grab a little bit. So just working on that. No, you don't want to see any PIs, especially coming off week they had 0 defensive penalties.
Did an excellent job defensively against Michigan outside of that one big touchdown run or big touchdown pass. So for my notes, Chris, the last thing I had, Bishop Fitzgerald, he is currently Pro Football Focus's #1 graded safety out of all safeties in Division I. And I asked him what does that mean to you? And he said, it's all about the team. So really took the high road. That was great to see. Continues to be a great kid. Ryan and I interviewed Bishop on Monday. That's now up on our YouTube thanks to House of Victory. So definitely check that out. It was great to speak with Bishop. He provided a lot of really good insights. You heard from a couple other players, Chris, before we wrap up. Can start with Ryan Sayeri and then anywhere else you want to go.
Had a great time talking to Ryan Sayeri. Obviously the kicker. Kickers don't get a lot of love, but he had a big crowd today. Obviously he's been growing in his confidence, and 9 on 10 on the season, drilled a big kick, a career-long 54-yard kick. Not well hit, and he was the first to admit that. He was like, that was the worst hit ball I've had in 4 weeks.
Well, it went in.
It still went in. I guess that's all that mattered, but obviously super fired up on the sideline. You saw that, and then if you saw on the broadcast, Lincoln Riley, maybe the most excited we've seen all season. He said a lot of people were sending him that reaction. He said they were juiced on the sideline. He's like, I've never been hit that many times on the helmet. Obviously, everyone's giving him the attaboy pats and stuff. So, yeah, he's been having a really great season, first year as a starter. And obviously, you're going to a road game, a South Bend game, where it's going to be cold. It's going to be windy a little bit. Probably going to be hit with some rain. And I asked him, the fact that this is going to be a challenging weather game, does that change anything about your approach? And he was like, no, I cannot change anything. Obviously, kickers are very creatures of habit. You can't really, they have to stay consistent. They have to do everything the same. The mechanics, everything has to be the same moving forward, every rep the same. So he said, if I start doing something differently, it's going to get in my head, and that's going to affect me as well. And then he mentioned, I saw some great observations with him during the Purdue game, and so I asked him about that. He's like, yeah, I love playing on the road. Like, I love playing in the hostile environment, interacting with the opposing fans. He said it helps him lock in better, and he's just overall more locked in when they're playing on the road in kind of that environment.
Seems like Ryan Sayeri has that right attitude for a kicker.
He never seems to feel any pressure. He's like, yeah, I don't really feel that, and you can see it on the field. He's loose on the sideline. He does not. I've seen other kickers that kind of a little shaky out there when before a big kick, but no, he seems so even keeled. And we asked him about his long. He said he's hit a 56-yarder in high school. That was his career long. He's hit a 58-yarder in USC practice, but it would have been good from 70. That's crazy leg there. So maybe we'll see another big kick this weekend in South Bend. He's still got some other things to add to his resume, including like a game winner, maybe a kick in the rain, stuff like that. So again, he's having a really good season and just a really humble guy, and gave a lot of credit. I asked about his holder, Sam Johnson. They don't get a lot of credit. They don't get a lot of love. He was like, he's been fantastic this season. If you go back and watch the kick, it was a little bit of a wonky spin, and Sam Johnson saved it. He got it right on the money where he needed to hit it. So hit it badly, but if he also had a bad setup, it probably wouldn't have gone in. So he gave Sam a lot of credit for having his sets really clean this season.
You mentioned Sayeri's resume. One thing that's on it right now, starting kicker at USC. I think it's safe to say he's won that job. He made it his own. Any final thoughts, Chris? Thoughts from anyone else we heard from today? Or is it time to go?
I think it's time to go. I got to go do a composite 2-star recruits podcast for 3 hours or something like that. And if you're going to the game this weekend, you're going to be in Chicago. We're doing a meetup at Theory Bar, 6 p.m. in Chicago. I don't know how the crossover for people that watch that actually go to games, but 6 p.m., Theory Bar, Chicago, Friday night, and we'll be there.
Ryan Abraham's buying all the drinks. Just kidding, but maybe if you ask him, he'll buy you one. He's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morrissette. This has been Instant Analysis after USC's Wednesday practice of Notre Dame week. We will see you in Chicago, in South Bend, and then back here in LA at the end of the weekend. But I'm so excited for this one, Chris. I know you are too. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.